Perfect. Okay, so welcome everyone. We are here today at this roundtable series, where we are going to be navigating the financial system as a DACA recipient. We have several DACA recipients from the communities that we serve to share their stories and be vulnerable with us. And we also have great credit union leaders who are here to really learn from you all and then also share their best practices around DACA recipient lending and just account opening in general. So I really want to thank you all for being here. I want to especially thank all the DACA recipients that are choosing to be vulnerable and come out with your stories of, financial discrimination at some point. So this is a really, really important conversation. For those that don't know me, I'm also a DACA recipient, so this speaks to my heart as well because I've also suffered from those injustices. So I'm gonna kick it off by just saying a little bit about NACA for those that don't know about us. We are the National Latino Association of Credit Union Professionals, so we really are here to empower Latino people in our communities and empower the Latino credit union professionals and making sure that we are advancing their careers and putting them in the right places to make those decisions for our communities. And really, this is an open discussion, so please feel free to share all your comments and questions with each other. I want everybody to feel safe. It's very important for our DACA recipients to feel safe and heard. So be mindful of that, please. And the purpose of this roundtable really is to just educate the community around the nuances of DACA. And I will start with a small PDF that I created just to kind of educate people on what is DACA for those that don't know. So DACA stands for Defer Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's an immigration policy introduced by the Obama administration in June 2012. It's aimed at providing temporary legal protections for certain undocumented individuals who came to the U.S. as children. Eligibility criteria to qualify for DACA, individuals must meet the following: came to the U.S. before their 16th birthday, have lived in the U.S. continuously since June 15, 2007, were under the age of 31 as of June 15, 2012, and are currently in high school or in school, have graduated or obtained a certificate of completion from high school, or have obtained a GED. The benefits of DACA is, I think the biggest one is the protection from deportation. Approved individuals receive temporary relief from deportation, so we are not able to be deported as of today. Work authorization, DACA recipients can apply for a work permit, enabling them to legally work in the U.S. That's also been really life-changing for me personally. And then access to educations. So we put many, but then I'm going to say some states recipients to qualify for in-state tuition rates and some don't. So it just depends where you live. And then Social Security, they are allowed to obtain a Social Security number for tax and other purposes. So that is just a quick overview of DACA. And I'm gonna pass it on to our DACA recipients. I want to go by one for you guys to introduce yourselves and share whatever story you think is important for this panel and the people to hear. So I'm gonna name you guys as we go. So Alondra, I see you first, so take it away.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, my mute button. That's today's favorite phrase, right? Can you hear me? Hola a todos, mi nombre es Alondra Vázquez, and I work for Coopera Consulting. I've met some of you in person or through email, and I just want to say, thank you, Barbara, for, having this discussion. It's really important. I have been in financial services since 2014. So it's funny, right? Almost 10 years at being in this industry. And in that time, right, I've tried to apply for credit cards. I've had I've had situations in my life where I needed a loan or I needed a car. And I remember that, unfortunately, the very first place that approved me for a credit card was Capital One, right? That was the only bank that, wasn't giving me a hard time. They approved me $1,000 right away. And now that's my oldest credit line. It's like 10 years, right, since I've had this credit line now. But it's sad because I've been in the credit union industry for 8 years. And it was very sad to see that, my own employer wasn't giving me loans. They weren't approving me for a credit card. They weren't approving me for a loan. But, thankfully throughout the years, I was able to, share my story with, leaders at my credit union back in Colorado, where I worked for, 5 years. And we were able to change some of those policies, which was awesome, right? Before I left, we were able to give DACA recipients credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, right? And it's all because of education, sharing my story, right? I've been renewing my work authorization, even though it's only for 2 years, right? It's already been more than 10 years. So there's this just, misconceptions about what the work authorization is. And obviously being employed, right? I've had, stable, thankfully, I've had stable employment, stable income that I can show financial institutions that, hey, I'm just a consumer trying to, fulfill my dreams of, owning a car, owning a home, whatever that may be. And I'm not very different, right, from other consumers, residents and US citizens. So it's been a long journey being a DACA recipient. There's been a lot of scary times, right, where we think it might be abolished or removed, things like that. But I think the credit union industry has a lot of there's a lot of opportunity here to become a to become the financial institution for people like me, right, to give us opportunities. And yeah, and then be part of the credit union mission. So I know I kind of just spilled a little bit of everything, but that's kind of my story and some of the challenges that I've had.
Thank you, Alondra, for sharing that. The next person I see that's a DACA recipient on my screen is Tania Ochoa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya. I want to start off by saying thank you for allowing us the space to talk about a very important topic, which is DACA. I work for Latino Community Credit Union for 5 years. I'm a transaction server supervisor. I applied for DACA as soon as it came out
because I don't really feel like I connect with anybody else that we have in the office. Unfortunately.
If you're not a participant, can you please mute yourself?
Like, do you connect with like Maria Campos and Patty and all the people
Give me
that are
just a second.
I only connect with Maria.
Hello.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
so,
If you're not a
she's been
participant,
there
can you
for a really
please
long
mute yourself?
time, and I'm not saying to go to her and like spill your troubles, but you might want to pick her brain too. How do you think we can get more accountability on this?
Yeah.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Sylvia, because as I was writing down, like, okay, what do I like about this? Like,
Barbara, you should be able
when
to
the
mute
days are
them as
great,
the
they're
host.
great. Like, you know,
Okay, I think we're good now, right?
Yes, Tanya, let me just make a quick announcement. For the audience that's not participating, can you please stay muted? It is not respectful for the people that are here today, so please ensure that you're muted if you're not participating. Thank you. Tanya, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So yeah, I applied for DACA as soon as it came out, which was in 2012. I was very happy when once Obama approved that DACA for us because it gave me opportunity for growth. I felt stuck. I came to the United States when I was 7 years old, and I didn't know anything about being a citizen until I turned 18. When I turned 18 and I was trying to get my license and apply for colleges, my parents told me, you can't, you're not a citizen. And I was like, what do you mean I can't? And, you know, they broke it down to me. And then once we received that notification that DACA was approved, I actually cried. I cried because it just felt this relief that I was able to apply for college, get my license. I completed my associate's degree in business administration from Central Piedmont Community College, and I applied to LCCU. And I started out as a teller one, and now I'm a transaction service supervisor. So I can say that DACA has really opened doors for me that I never imagined I would have at the age of 18. And I'm also glad to work for a credit union. And I'm also glad to work for a credit union where our mission is economic opportunity for all. We also have a DACA loan, which we approve the same day, no proof of income required. We pay the application for the recipient, give them a cashier's check payable to the Department of let me see, I think it froze. So we make a check payable to the DACA applicant, and just thankful for all the opportunities that this DACA is giving to all of us. And thank you for allowing me to speak about this important matter.
Thank you, Tanya. Again, I don't want to keep muting everybody because that disturbs the participants. So if you are not a panelist or a presenter, please mute yourself. I'm going to mute everybody one more time. So just to ensure. There we go. Thank you so much. The next person that we have here, Emiliano Galicia, I want to introduce you. I know that, you know, you're outside of the credit union industry, but I really want you to share your experience with us. So thank you so much for being here today with us.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you for hosting this event, and thank you for the invite. I'm an older DACA recipient. I came here to the United States when I was 11. Graduated college in 2005 with a master's in 2006. This is about 10 years before DACA, as we know it, came into existence. So I had, after graduating from college, I had a rough time looking for jobs and looking for opportunities. I graduated as an engineer, and even in college, I did a lot of work related to drones and some of the latest technology, but I really had a hard time finding jobs in that industry. So what I did is I kind of pivoted and went into the real estate market, started to learn about investing in real estate and the possibilities of investments and for my future. Of course, being a DACA, being undocumented at that time, I could not. I actually had credit. Actually, when I graduated, when I started college, I went to Wells Fargo. I applied for checking and savings accounts, and I ended up also getting a credit card using my ITIN at that time. That was in 2001. So since 2001 until I got my Social Security, I actually was able to build credit. I also got a credit card through American Express in 2007. And as I started getting to in the real estate industry, I started to learn more about credit and building credit and what that entailed. My goal was to buy a property at some point, and of course, I was trying to apply and getting denied. But I was like, there's got to be a way to still buy property. In 2009, I actually bought a property cash. At that time, as you probably remember, we're coming out of the housing crisis, and there was still a lot of properties that were fairly cheap, but it was very hard to get a loan for anybody. And then I was like, well, that is true, but there's a way to still make it happen. I ended up buying a property for $53,000. At that time, I only had like $30,000 or so saved up, But I was like, well, where do I find the rest of the money? So I had to ask people I know to help me out. Maybe I got 2 loans for $10,000 to be able to help me buy that property for $53,000, which after a few years I was able to sell it for almost $200,000. But I was already in that track of I know how the financial system works, and I just have to find a way to make it happen. Unfortunately, as an undocumented person before DACA, it was very hard, right? I mean, I did take some high risk loans because there was no other alternative for me. Although I had credit, I had I was able to find a job and as an independent contractor that was working, it was still very hard to find some form of loans. Now, DACA came about, and in 2013, 2014, I was able to get a social security number, and I was able to find other type of jobs related to what I've studied, to my industry, which I did. I kind of took some of the credit history that I had previously with my ITIN, was able to shift that over to my social security number, and that helped a lot, but that was still not enough, because when DACA came about, a lot of people, especially the banking industry, did not know much about it, and they were honestly very scared, right? I mean, our permits are only valid for 2 years. Again, by that time I already had properties, and I wanted to continue buying properties, but every time I did a loan application, they were like, it's only for 2 years. What happens if you're out of here after 2 years? So at the beginning, it was very hard. I have to say that things got easier as time went on, because there was more information about DACA, and there were definitely more. We were getting more renewals as our 2-year term came to an end, but we were able to renew. Now we're at the 10-year and 11-year anniversary. A lot more people are aware of it, and it's more aware. Throughout those 10 years that I've had DACA, I've always constantly applied for loans. I mean, I have right now 6 mortgages, over $3 million in mortgages with different stuff. So, and I say that because once you're a good client, you could become a good client for life. I mean, I probably continue investing in real estate and other stuff. So I have great credit, almost 800 plus credit. So, but I didn't get here like in one shot, right? It's been a little steps at a time. But I like I said, once I understand the system, how the system works, then I try to work towards giving the banks what they want, having the stability in the bank, having the making sure that to some degree, hopefully DACA is not going to go away, but in case it does, I will still be able to repay my loans back, because in reality right now, most of the properties that I own are investment owned. I do have to give 25-30% down in most of them, so they're safe to a certain degree, and I actually have enough equity on a lot of them, so I know they're in a good position for them to be able to lend me money and continue to lend me money in the future. So that's just a little bit about me. I work as a program engineer, nothing to do with finance, but like I said, I'm still connected through the real estate I own.
Thank you, Emiliano. Alan, I see you next.
I'm sorry, Barbara, you said my name right? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Lopez. I currently work at Guadalupe Credit Union, a local New Mexico credit union. I've been with this organization for a little over 6 years now. I started off as a teller at one of our locations. I was there for about 8 months, and I was lucky enough to move into their accounting department. and right now I'm the accounting and EFT manager. I came to the U.S. Well, I was brought over to the U.S. by my parents when I was 3 years old, and similar to Tanya, I wasn't aware that I was illegal until I turned 18, and I was trying to apply for colleges and get some sort of identification to be able to go out into the world and try to build a future for yourself. And I was hit with the reality that I was undocumented. Luckily for me, that was in 2011, 2012, so DACA came right about a year after. So I was kind of a fortunate one that it wasn't too much of a struggle, but I still had to deal with working in construction, getting paid cash instead of being able to get like a good job like I have now. I actually just completed my 5th renewal last month, so I'm still pending on that. DACA is a great temporary fix, and I like to mention that it's temporary because we have to keep renewing. And even though we're able to get jobs, we still can't get the full federal help or for FHA loans, for purchasing homes, stuff like that. So even though it's a great tool, it's still not enough. And I'm glad that Barbara was able to put this together to shed some light and show that we are aware and we're wanting to take steps to hopefully get a better solution. That's about it for me.
Gracias, Alan. The next person I have on my list as also a DACA recipient is Tanya Ampudida, if you're here, because now the screen is a little, people are all over, so. Tanya, you had joined earlier, so I don't, yes, there we go.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, how are you? So yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting us. I am happy that we're having this conversation and we're sharing our experiences in DACA. I am thankful for the opportunity that the Obama government did for us. I've had DACA since 2013, so it's about 10 years now. I applied about 2-3 months after the program came out. I was very nervous at the beginning because there was a lot of uncertainty. This was something brand new. My mom was nervous for me at the beginning. She was excited to when I got approved because it gave me the opportunity to apply for a different job, and not only a job but a career. I was in a different position where I had to work 70 hours a week. And when I finally got approved for DACA, 2 months after I applied for the credit union, a Latino community credit union, I started as a teller with them, and I've been in all the credit union positions. Right now, I'm a consumer lending manager, and it's very overwhelming and very happy to know what the credit union does for not only our DACA recipients, but all the immigration community. We do loans for people that don't have a social security number, and I think that's what drew me into working with the credit union. I wanted to learn how to help my community. I wanted people to have the same opportunities that I was starting to get as a DACA recipient. Like Emiliano, I'm sorry, I had a credit before that. I just had one little credit card with Bank of America. As a student, I actually opened that with my tax ID in the past. And when I started working at the credit union, I started to learn how to change my credit, how to transfer that credit to the Social Security, and that opened doors. But just a lot of companies, a lot of banks, the lending industry, they were afraid to let us borrow money past the 2-year period for permits. And I remember one time when I applied for a car loan, they told me, we can lend you for the 2 years that you have your partner with, a $20,000 car loan. I didn't take it because I wasn't going to be able to pay $20,000 in 2 years. So it's just a lack of acknowledgement, and I think it's come a long way. I see doors are being opened now more than before, but we have a long way to go. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Tanya. Angel Reyes?
Buenas. Good afternoon. Angel Reyes. I work here at the Latino Community Credit Union too. I've had DACA since it basically came out. I think it was since I was 16, 15. My mom waited as soon as it came out. She went ahead and jumped into it. I've had it ever since. Very grateful for having the DACA. I definitely do need to find a solution for it because it is a temporary thing. It's helped me with career-wise. It's helped me with financial-wise. It's being able to give me a Social Security so that I can create my credit with it. I have had two bad experiences like Tanya, where I tried to get a car loan and they set me up for 2 years. They were like, "Oh, we'll give you the car loan for 2 years." My payments were like $1,000 some. I was like, I can't afford that. They ended up giving me the 6-year loan for the car. Another experience that I had was one time my DACA had expired. I got lost in the mail. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to work for like 2-3 weeks because until my DACA permit had to be able to renew. So that's the only bad experience I've had with my DACA. But yeah, I've been working there at the Latino Community Union since 2018.
Thank you,
And that's
Angel.
it.
Thank you. Areli Tapia, if you're online, it is your turn. I think I saw you logged in, and then I'll give you 1 minute. Okay. Angel Jaimes?
Hi, good afternoon. Angel, same here from Latino Community Credit Union, and thanks for the invitation. And pretty much, been hearing all the stories and pretty much a little of everyone, around, Alan, Tanya, Angel, several, kind of identify with most of them, as far as with the DACA. So I've been in the United States most part of my life. Was brought here as a child. Went back to home country again. Came back as a teenager, and fortunately wasn't able to at the time had to be in the real world and work, and family needed income and that kind of thing. So started to work, didn't finish off high school. So a couple years later, re-enrolled into community college to complete a GED. So I did that before then DACA came around, applied for it, probably be around almost 10 years with it. After that, it's helped enormously, career-wise as well. Prior to working with the credit union, I was driving probably say an hour to work daily back and forth. So a 2-hour drive every day, long days, 5 days a week, 60 plus hours a week. So it was a whole lot different than I'm currently right now. So at the credit union, as most of them have stated, I've kind of started as a teller and kind of been through several positions within the branch level. Currently in a back office position in the internal audit area. So it has helped. It's been a benefit. Even though we have to continue every 2 years to renew, and then you have when that date gets close and you see it's not arriving and it's going to expire, and then that kind of thing. And then sometimes, fortunate and lucky enough, you get it pretty quick, pretty fast. Like this, I just renewed it a couple months ago, and within, submitting the application and everything, I got it back about 3 weeks to a month, and it was done. I didn't have to do anything, and it wasn't, it wasn't set to expire until August. So another thing, every time you renew, you get cut back a couple of months and a couple of months. So you do never get it. And in reality, you don't never get it for the full 2 years. But at least, as I guess I see it the way, as long as you don't get to the point where it expires and you're without it, you lose everything you've accomplished for, or you worked for, and you've given those opportunities for to, good. But I believe that there needs something to be changed, and there's, even though we have this for now, I believe there should be better possibilities for us in this situation. And as far as, obtaining those, to continue in the, continuing education, as far as, being to be able to provide in-state tuition and all that kind of stuff. It's been complicated. I was, in community college, most of it out of pocket, out of state. So, and, that's, and there, after that, you just want to keep going, but then at the same time, you got to keep, you have to think about the finance part of it and how much can you afford to keep going for that. And then that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Angel. And for those that just joined us throughout the webinar, I'm Barbara Mujica. I'm the Executive Director for NowCup, also a DACA recipient. And I do want to touch a little bit what Angel was saying, education. For me, the most challenging financial part has been pursuing my education, especially here in North Carolina, where DACA recipients are still required to pay in-state and out-of-state tuition, even though we pay taxes here, we live here, and we can show that we are residents of North Carolina. Currently, there is no way for us here in North Carolina to get any sort of financial assistance besides scholarships, and those scholarships are usually prioritized for those high schoolers coming out of high school. So for me, the biggest challenge has been that. And so I know we have so many credit union leaders to start creating a program where, DACA recipients can get loans through you all that can be repaid after school, because that would be life-changing for some. So I just wanted to say that because I deeply care about my education, and it's been so hard to complete that goal of mine with DACA in Northline specifically. So we're going to move on. We have some amazing credit union here. Again, I'm going to yourself when you're coming in, because I keep muting everyone. But I want to take it to the credit union leaders that we have here. We have Max Villaronga from Raiz Credit Union. He's the CEO there. We have Dr. Samira Sala with CUNA, and then we have Winona Nava, CEO of Guadalupe Credit Union. And the question for you three is, why is it important credit unions to know about financial literacy with DACA recipients specifically? I see Max first, and then we'll go around.
Well, I think financial literacy is really important with everybody. And let me start out, Barbara, by just thanking you for including me as part of this. This is really a pleasure to be here. So we're located here on the border with Mexico. So we're in El Paso. We're about $1 billion financial institution, a little bit over $1 billion, have about 72,000 members. And I've been here over 9 years as the president and CEO. We do a variety of different financial literacy programs. We have kind of a game-based platform that focuses on elementary kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and then we have an adult version as well. And it's available to our members. And we also partner with all of the area schools to put those programs into the schools, which is an important part of this. So, in terms of DACA specifically, I think we have to look at, what happens generationally with financial literacy. And there are systems and oh, I think we've got a problem with somebody not muting themselves.
My settings say credit union investment services.
Let me mute them again, Max. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And then you're going to mute yourself.
Sure. All right. Hopefully you can hear me okay now. So from the standpoint that we look at it, is financial literacy is important for everybody. But when you have people coming from other countries where the banking system isn't as trusted as it is in the United States, or families may not have the same levels of financial literacy. How do you break that cycle of a lack of literacy? And so the conversations that I've had with DACA recipients in the past made me realize that financial literacy was a key component of it, because when you have to live in the shadows for a period of time, particularly with one of the older DACA recipients, they had avoided the financial system because the financial system wasn't open to them. So they didn't really know all the tools that they could have access to. So what did they have to do? They had to use other tools in the system, like payday lenders that are more expensive. So I think credit unions have an opportunity to be part of the solution here in terms of providing financial literacy to this particular community.
Oh, I love that. And I think another resource that I often know our community uses is Pandas, right? And then it's such a good community concept, and it's at the core of what credit unions do. So I would love to have another roundtable exploring that topic itself. Samira?
Yeah. Barbara, again, another thank you for bringing this important topic. I want to say, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like this is the first time we've addressed this topic like directly, explicitly, and just this is what we're talking about today. So it's so important. And so I think this, on financial education, yes, I agree wholeheartedly with what Max was saying. And I love, Max, that you think about the generations within the DACA recipients, right? Emiliano shared his story and his workarounds and how he kind of made it work, but he could have had a more efficient path to the wealth building that he's engaged in, right? And credit unions could have been a part of that through the education, through the opportunities. I'm a child of immigrants who came from countries that were not did not have the financial system infrastructure that we had here. And even if they did, they weren't in a position to use it, right? So, we are all firsts, right? In terms of really leading when it comes to engaging with financial institutions, financial systems, figuring it out, having to build that trust. And another thing that Emiliano said that really kind of stuck with me is that now it's about building those relationships with your lenders. So they know you're good for your money, right? They know you're going to stick around past those two. But then it also makes me think, okay, the relationship is really good, but you also want to be able to shop around, right? So are you always getting the best deal? Right. So there are still those kind of on the margins challenges that you're facing. So I think learning has to absolutely happen, in terms of financial education, credit unions. We need to do what we can to ensure that DACA, undocumented as well, know that we have our arms open wide and we want to provide tools and the information and the education they need to thrive. But also we need to learn. Do you know how many credit union professionals I've run into that don't know what DACA is? Like they don't know. Right? And so how do you handle that? And how do you build that trust so you're not offering just a 2-year loan on a car, right? If that. So I think it's a kind of a two-way education piece that we need to do. And so, Barbara, I applaud you for this because this is the first step in that direction.
Thank you, Samira. That's the goal for NACOP, so thank you so much. Winona? I don't see you in the camera, but I know you're here. Yes, there we go.
I think I'm here now. So I want to thank you also for having me here. It's kind of been a natural progression with us that we've been doing ever since DACA came into being, that we have had employees and members, and we have never treated anyone any differently, but that's how we've always done things. Well, since 2000, that's how we've done things here at Guadalupe Credit Union. And I know DACA was later, but it was like Alan said, I mean, he's been able to grow to the management level, and I heard several others of you that have at other credit unions. And we also don't make any difference when we're doing lending to DACA recipients. And I agree with Samira to a certain point. We probably need more education to credit unions about that, because I know that it's been a challenge, like for you personally, Barbara, where you had to educate your credit union about how that worked. And I know the only time that was a little concerning for me, but I mean, I felt so bad for all my staff members that were DACA, with the fact that when that was talking about being revoked, that was so horrible. And I worked with Somos in Pueblo Unido to help me come up with some education to do to help reassure our employees, because that was just such a scary time. And we've got to make sure that all you wonderful people don't have to go through something horrible like that again. And also, I believe the system really needs to be fixed so that there's a path to permanent citizenship. And we educate people on finances. We educate them in the schools and everything. We educate them our one-on-one in our offices. We also do education for employees in our offices. They can come for financial coaching during work hours. We do it, I mean, we get a lot of referrals like from Somos and Pueblo Unido, and we just do a lot of financial education and coaching at our credit union. That's one of our biggest areas of focus. And we also work with Adelante, a school program. I'm not sure what else to say, so thank you.
Thank you, Winona. Tying this back to the credit union leaders again that are here on the panel, if your credit union is doing, and for the audience as well, I just want to say the chat is open for you to send in your questions and comments. I'll read those out loud, so you are welcome to participate in the chat box. But what are the best practices that you have taken as a credit union leader to welcome and to support DACA recipients, whether that is through financial access, employment, whatever resources you think are helpful for other credit unions to learn and to start embracing, the DACA recipient community. And Winona, I'm gonna bounce it out to you again because you're right there.
Okay, well, I guess I have to say I don't understand the apprehension, I guess is my concern of the other credit unions. And so I think I understood it a little bit more with the I-10 lending, but I really struggle to understand it with all of you wonderful DACA recipients. I don't understand why you would not want to. I mean, the only time that I can say right now, I can't name my DACA recipients that are employees anymore. And I used to have a fairly good idea, but Somos in Pueblo Unido told me during the time when they were talking about revoking it that I needed to forget who was and who wasn't a DACA recipient. And so I just completely shut it out of my mind. And so I guess to focus on that is a little bit hard for me at this point, since I really focused on not having that, not really knowing that at the time, because that way I could never be questioned.
That's Max, do you have some insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to think about what are credit unions originally intended to do. I mean, it's about access to credit, and we're here for the little guy. We're not supposed to be focused on the overbanked. We're supposed to be focused on the underserved, right? And in dialogue with DACA, and it came up in this meeting at the very beginning, and it literally hurts my soul when I hear it, that banks like Chase and Bank of America and Wells do a better job of providing services to DACA than we do. And that also applies to ITIN. And so that is a real concern to me, that there's a level of ignorance and fear in the credit union industry. And I don't say ignorance in an ugly way. I just mean in a lack of knowledge around it. And I think there's a level of ignorance in our employee groups as well. So if the team doesn't understand the identification that's being utilized by a non-member, they don't understand what a matricula consular is. They don't understand, what they're looking at. Their answer is going to be no, because it's safer for them. They're scared of getting in trouble, violating a policy or procedure, getting fired, right? So I think in credit unions across the country, we need to look in the mirror and think about who we're here to serve, and do a better job of that. So we not specific to DACA, but we very early on here we've been doing citizenship lending when there's people that can't afford what is it? I think it's like $780 fee to apply for membership in the US, which is a purposeful barrier to keep people from becoming US citizens, right? So we try to reduce that barrier by taking care of the loan, making it a low interest loan, and doing it on a tablet. So we go out to the citizenship workshops so that we can make the loans real time for those consumers. And I think it's really about humanizing. And I think when, especially what we've seen in the past few years, where there's a rhetoric that's dehumanizing certain segments of our society, it scares people into not wanting to help, because they're somehow able to separate that person from being a person. So it's a travesty. And I think if we're serious about credit union work, we need to work at this as a group. And I'm so glad that NELCUP is taking a leadership role in this.
Thank you, Max. Emiliano, did you have a question or comment before I jump to Samira?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment because Alex mentioned it. You mentioned that the big banks are helping more of the DACA recipients now, but that has also changed. I know, for example, Wells Fargo, there was a class action lawsuit because they were discriminating, and they settled that. I've been part of some other class law actions against SoFi and maybe other big banks, and the more the more those banks are, there's some lawsuits against them because of their discrimination practices, then they start changing their practices, and then that has ripple effects because they're the big guys as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Emiliano. Samira?
So I obviously agree with everything that Max and Winona said. I mean, they're the boots on the ground, and I think they have such an incredible perspective on this work. And just you couldn't find two more committed leaders when it comes to the Latino community, and trying to find a way to ensure that we all have an opportunity to thrive. From my perspective at the Credit Union National Association, I have opportunities to kind of hear about some of the things people are doing, and then also pick up on where some of the holes or gaps might be. I think one of the things that you pointed out, Barbara, and that kind of came from this conversation as well, is the need for scholarships or maybe the low interest loans for older students, DACA recipients, and even some of the younger ones, because they don't have access to federal loans or all of that. So that might be an interesting place for credit unions to really put their money where their mouth is when it comes to this particular community. But I also think, so yesterday we had the opportunity to be in Portland for the Juntos Avanzamos. Oscar was there. It was great to see you as well. But the Juntos Avanzamos, they launched the regional chapter there with Unitas and Point West. It was a great celebration. But one of the things we heard about was they had community members and staff that were part of their Hispanic advisory group at Unitas Credit Union, the community credit union there. And I'm thinking, like, it's such a great idea. And couldn't we also ensure that there's a place and a voice for DACA recipients on this, right? To raise the issues that they're seeing and the challenges that they're facing. So it's very explicit in the conversation at the credit union level. So I thought, I just feel like it's a really simple thing that we could do. And in terms of just what we all want ultimately is wealth building and well-being. And where can credit unions step in there? And obviously mortgage lending and all of that, but being very thoughtful about this particular community. And understanding that sometimes you have a mixed household with different status in the house. I mean, it can be complicated. So really grappling with that and what it means for your underwriting, what it means for your lending. And also, when you are providing, hopefully your credit union is able to provide investment advice in addition to that, ensuring that the investment advice, is very much coming from somebody who understands who we are and our relationship to money and is connected to intergenerational wealth. So let's talk about your estate planning. Let's talk about, like, it's not just about, you can buy a house. Yay, it's important, but there's more to it. And DACA recipients should be the whole gamut, and credit unions should be your best partner in the whole thing. So.
Thank you, Samira. I'm gonna flip it over to the DACA recipients. I want to address this question, and I know I sent an agenda, so I'm pivoting a little bit because I think it's important to address this. We know as DACA recipients that the future of DACA is unpredictable. We especially experienced that unpredictability in the last administration, possibly every 3 months, I feel like. And so I am asking the DACA recipients on this panel how credit unions can continue supporting us even if DACA was to be eliminated. I think that topic is not talked about often. I think that people think DACA is here to stay, and unfortunately that changes depending on the administration that we have in the US, right? And so personally, I'll share, like, when that was happening in the last administration, I was like, well, I'll just become an undocumented person again in the United States because my life is here and I'm not going to self-deport myself to Mexico, right? So, and I think that's a sentiment that a lot of DACA recipients may share, especially those that have families here with children that are US citizens. So, Alondra, I see you first. If you can address, how best can credit unions support us if that was to come around and happen?
Well, yeah, we hope it never gets there, right? I guess I've that's a really hard question. I guess I would start by making sure that the credit union is a place that you can trust, right? Like we are able to come in and like share that story, right? Like, I just lost my work authorization or et cetera. And how is that different? I always said this when credit unions didn't want to lend to DACA recipients, how is that different from, someone going to jail down the road, they can't make their payments, or someone from losing their job, like it's always like a different treatment. And so I guess I would just want to feel that my banker, my teller knows what I'm going through, that they empathize with me, that they are with me, right? Like, how can we help you? And probably continue to lend, right? Because we're going to find a way to work. We're going to find a way to make money, and we have for years and years and years, right? So How can you continue to lend to me even though, I just lost my work authorization? But I would say, before we get to that place where, DACA gets abolished or something like that happens, I think that the credit union, and we have so many credit union staff members that are DACA recipients here. I would love for our credit union to, fund our application process, right? So not only do we have to renew every 2 years, we have to pay $600 each time. And, while we can prepare for that and we know, hey, I know this expense is going to come up, I have saved for it. It would be awesome for our employers to return, our hard work, our loyalty, the kind of employees that we are in a credit union would be to say, hey, let me help you with those expenses, right? As the employer, I guess that's what I would love to see. It's just some help with that, right? Because I think as a DACA recipient, there's a lot of responsibilities too, right? We can't get in trouble with the law, right? If we have any previous things, we can't renew our authorization if there's something on our report. So again, there's a lot of responsibility as a DACA recipient. And again, having the credit union as a support system where I know they're gonna, they want me as an employee, and they're willing to pay for some of that process, or again, continue to lend even after DACA goes away. So that would be I-10 lending, right? Probably the next thing is making sure that you have a strong I-10 lending policy in place. So that's kind of what I would share.
Thank you, Alondra. And Alan, I'll give it to you next before we move forward to the next question.
Thank you, Barbara. For me, it's a little hard to not be so. I'm lucky to live in New Mexico, where Guadalupe Credit Union has been doing I-10 lending for years. So I know if that were to be the case, I'd be lucky enough to not have to worry about something like that. I didn't actually realize that until a few years ago when I started researching more of how it was for like other states and what type of things they offered for DACA recipients, and it's really hard because like I'm fortunate enough to live in such a place where it is I-10 lending is not that rare. It's very common, but it's not like that everywhere. So if it was, I think that'd be the best way that they can, like, at least for sure give you a certain idea of that if you lose your DACA, you're not going to lose your home, you're not going to lose your vehicle. You might have a hard time finding another job, but like Alondra mentioned, we've been able to figure that out before. Generations before us have been able to figure that out before. So it's a little hard to not be biased, and luckily that I am with Guadalupe Credit Union. And I think that's why Winona was saying that she finds a hard way of grasping why credit unions don't want to lend to DACA recipients when we do the I-10 lending already. So I think that was part of that.
Thank you. And I'll call any other DACA recipient that wants to comment on that. Just raise your hand or unmute yourselves. We are running short on time. Oh my God, this is amazing though. That's great. Means I'll have a second. So I just want to be respectful of everyone's time as well. That's why I don't mean to rush people, but we are running short on time, and I know people have other comments after this. But if no other DACA recipient wants to offer some question or some comments to that question, then I can move forward. The chat box, again, for the audience, I know some of you guys are trickling in still. It is open for comments or questions, and so we have a great wealth of knowledge here with the panel, and so I would encourage you to use that. And I have been seeing some comments on there, so please engage. I guess for me as a DACA recipient, what it looks like for support is, what Alondra said, having our backs and making sure that people don't lose their livelihoods, their homes, or cars that will take in place to place. And I envision that if DACA was to go away, a lot of small businesses would open. Because that's a way you can make money and, still be undocumented in a lot of places. So really having those policies in place to see, okay, well, this person lost their ability to work legally in the United States. How can we help them start something up with themselves so that they have reliable income? So that's just thinking outside the box a bit, but I do envision that. And hopefully DACA does not end, and hopefully we have a pathway to citizenship. But because of the anxiety I felt personally in the previous years, I keep that a center of my heart because I know that, it is possibility. And so moving on, and let me look at the agenda real quick. So does anybody in the attendee guests have any questions, comments that you want to share? If you do, just unmute yourself and then you can ask the question or comment. I'll give you guys like 30 seconds.
I had a quick question around the cost to renew DACA. Alondra was saying that, at least for the past few times, it's been $600 every time that you want to renew. That isn't cheap, especially if you're not sure about your, what your work status might be. But is there a possibility that that cost would change at some point in the future, since you've already expressed that there is a lot of uncertainty around DACA? We all would wish that it's going to be here to stay, but there is uncertainty around that depending on administration. Any concerns around the cost of DACA?
Alondra, I'll let you answer that since you addressed it too.
Yeah, I think the price has gone up since I think last time I renewed it. So if, for example, I think it was like $550, and I've been working with a lawyer for like 10 years, right? So there's an additional lawyer fee. So there's cost, right? So it is something that it can increase at any point in time. I don't know if anyone who renewed it recently, if you know how much that was, that would help. But I know that it doesn't change. It has changed.
Mm.
Yeah, right now I think it's Kenya, I see your hand.
Oscar, do you want to go first? I don't know if we raise our hand at the same time, but I just wanted to share. So, hi everyone. Sorry I joined late. I was doing a presentation, but my name is Kenya Calderon. I work for Green State Credit Union, and I'm also a DACA recipient. And so something that, I think the fee might change. It has continued to change year. It's not annually, but once in a while it will continue to change, not just for DACA recipients, but for immigration, like citizenship, anything you can think of. But I think my call to action for other credit unions is look into creating a benefit to reimburse immigrants that work for your institution for those fees. So Green State, I'm a DACA recipient myself too, and we have a few DACA recipients that are part of our team. So last year, we created an immigration reimbursement employee benefit. So if somebody that works for Green State has to pay one of their fees, whether it's for their citizenship or their DACA renewal or TPS renewal, they can submit proof that they have completed that renewal fee, and we reimburse them back for that fee. That's a way that we can show them that them renewing their social security number, their work authorization is actually beneficial to our institution. So I encourage other credit unions to look into implementing something similar to for your staff.
Thank you, Kenya. Oscar?
Yeah, hi everybody. Oscar Porras, senior consultant for DEI with Humanity, but I've been in the credit union industry for 22 years. So I am not a DACA recipient. I was born here in the United States. My parents are citizens, but my wife is a DACA recipient. So we're a household with different statuses, and in terms of like the cost of the fees, I don't see where that goes down or that reduces. If anything, it'll probably go up because they're going to continue to try to, I think, create borders to entry. I know that I think she pays. She just renewed it recently, and she paid biometrics fee, and then she doesn't have to do her biometrics, but they're not going to give her the fee back. And so we're in the process now of her becoming a resident alien. We're up to like $10,000 now through that process. We've totaled it all up. So, you know, those things are very, very expensive. And so I think our credit unions have to continue to find ways to help our employees, i.e. several of the examples that you all gave. But also, you know, I very much recognize that I think our members are on the same boats. And so what are we doing for our members? I think when you try to find solutions for one set of people, you find that those solutions end up helping others as well. I think it's like fundamental to DEI work, but I just think that that's kind of a good example of how I mean, just the costs are going to keep going up and it's going to get more expensive. And, you know, our credit unions have to figure something out to both invest in our employees and help our members. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Oscar. We are 10 minutes over time, so I want to make sure that I'm being respectful. I am going to do a part 2 because I think it's an important topic to continue discussing. I already have so many other questions for the panelists and for the DACA recipients. But I do want to open up the floor for anybody that has any comments, questions, especially the panelists, our credit union leaders. And I see a question in the chat about ITIN lending. A lot of the credit union leaders that you see here are already doing that. So I know Alan offered to reach out to him. So thank you so much, Alan, at Guadalupe Credit Union. But NALCP also has those resources as well. So please just reach out to me as well via email, and I'll be happy to share the resources as well. But any other last comments, questions, concerns?
I guess I would just add, right, one of the things that we've heard so far today is that educating your own credit union can really remove a lot of those barriers, right? It's something that we need to be open about it. It's real, right? We're here, you know, as we can see, there are employees from different credit unions here that are DACA recipients. So I think the more we educate our leaders, and, you know, the way that I got around it was, you know, sending an email, right, to my underwriter when I was trying to get my a car loan on my own. I'm like, hey, Tyler, you know, this is my story. I've been renewing DACA for 4 years now. I have credit history. I've never missed a payment. What can we do, right, so that I get approved for this car loan? So again, sharing our stories, educating, you know, especially our underwriting and risk teams about the types of IDs. You know, we have a social. We're doing everything legally. And again, just changing those guidelines and policies we have in place to be able to lend to, you know, the people here, your staff.
Thank you. And I do want to say there's 800,000 plus DACA recipients in this country. So if you probably know one of them, you probably mingle with one of them. A lot of us don't come, we're not open about our status for fear of retaliation. And that's another thing, fostering those environments where people can be fully themselves is really important. I know that when I worked at the credit union myself and they fostered that sort of environment for me, it was completely life-changing and I found my voice. So I encourage credit union leaders to also do that for your employees, because I'm sure you're probably employing a DACA recipient. Kenya?
I guess I have a question for the panelists. So I think we can all agree that we spend a lot of time talking about our struggles. We spend a lot of time talking about our education, but I'm curious to know what brings each of you joy, or what brings you the most pride about belonging to the DACA team, because we're strong and mighty. So I'm just curious about, when you think of our community, of our DACA community, of our undocumented community, what brings you the most joy?
Emiliano?
I would go first. I think the resiliency to overcome a lot of things. Again, I'm an older DACA recipient, and I struggle a lot before having DACA. And to me, you know, we come here to this country pursuing the American dream, right? And everybody in this country have different challenges that they have to face. But then once you start going through and facing those challenges and getting educated, as Alondra mentioned, your fear starts decreasing in some ways, and you bring that resiliency in within you. And if one door shuts down, you find a window. If a window shuts down, you find another another opening. And that's what we bring to the table. I mean, I've had the opportunity to perhaps gotten married a long time ago and maybe adjust my status, but if I didn't do it back then when it was really hard, now that I hope to be able to retire very soon. and I've traveled to about 28 countries, being a DACA recipient, having investments, having a good job. It's like, what else do I need? It's like right now I could do a lot of things, and I think I was able to do a lot of those things because I was a DACA recipient and I faced a lot of challenges, and I was able to find a way around those challenges. So I see it as as something good instead of something bad, because that allowed me to change the way I was thinking of things. It's like everybody will have a challenge, either time, money, whatever it is, you name it. And it's like, okay, but sometimes it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness. And the financial wise, I mean, if you go to a credit union, they want to lend, well, you got to go somewhere else. And eventually, they'll get the hang that, you're a trustworthy individual, and they'll start lending you money. But don't ever stop. That's the resiliency part of being a DACA recipient, and I see it as a compliment instead of something bad. And if it goes away, I mean, at least for me, it's like, okay, I'll go live somewhere else. I have credit. The houses will stay here. I'll be able to retire somewhere else. Not a problem for me.
Anybody else have comments? Thank you, Emiliano. I think it's the sentiment too. I mean, resiliency is such a beautiful word, and I think our community thrives on that. And we've been resilient since we crossed borders, and so we'll continue being resilient on this side of the pond. So with that, I will have to close the session out, guys. I'm so sorry that I took a little bit more time, especially for our guest speakers, but please be on the lookout for part 2. I'll continue doing this. It's an important topic, and it's a topic that I am passionate about because I'm affected by it daily. So thank you so much on behalf of NALCUP, the NALCUP and the NALCUP team. Thank you to all the panelists that were able to share your time with us today. Thank you so much to all the attendees. This is our most attended, most registered webinar. So I'm really proud. I want to share that milestone with you guys. So just be on the lookout. So thank you so much, all, and have a great evening.